Welcome into College Hockey Southwest Weekly, our long distance Devils segment. I'm your host, Scott Strandy. I've got Paul Hornstein with me. And Paul, it's a huge weekend for Sun Devil hockey coming up. And I know you're going to be up there for us at Boston U. So, how excited are you about this hockey weekend?
I'm really, really excited. You have the dynamic of the importance of the game. You have the dynamic of one of the legendary programs of college hockey. You have uh, the whole situation where um, we're going to see what they're made of coming up off of that sweep that they got handed to them at Cornell. So there's a lot of different things at play and at work here. And this is playoff hockey. And if you can't get excited about playoff hockey, then watch something else, because it doesn't make any sense. If you can't get excited for this, then I can't help you.
Exactly it. Well, they came off the bye week. I talked to Coach Powers today for our weekly 5-minute Powers play, and he told me he thought the guys were refreshed. I watched practice myself today. They looked very refreshed, very energized, very relaxed. They were having a lot of fun. They were doing a lot of specialty teams work, which him and I talked about a little bit today about how important that was going to be to win the specialty teams battle. He threw out an interesting thing to him. I asked him about it, and he said he really thinks it's all about effort, heart, and he thinks that his guys have been, for the last couple of weeks anyway, maybe thinking that they're on the power play so they don't have to work quite as hard because they have the extra man. So he thinks that maybe psychologically and mentally they were thinking, we don't have to work as hard. We got the extra player. He said it's just the opposite. You need to work harder to outwork the penalty killer.
Well, you brought it up, and this is something I looked up in my research getting ready for our segment this week. BU played on Monday. They beat Merrimack 7-2. Merrimack, first-year coach. They kind of got rid of the coach kind of late in the spring and late in the summer. There was some controversy about it, but that doesn't have anything really to do with this. BU's 7 goals were 3 power play goals and a shorthanded goal. That was their 7th shorthanded goal of the season. Guess who they trail in shorthanded goals in the country?
Is it a maroon and gold team?
No, it's actually nobody. They lead the country in shorthanded goals. They have 7. There's a couple of teams at 5, but they lead the country in shorthanded goals. So not only did their power play get hot this past weekend, they added to their nation lead in shorthanded goals. So if the players think that they can take it easy when they're on the man advantage this weekend especially, they're going to learn in a hurry that they can't do that.
Yeah, I think he's instilled that into their head that this is a weekend Johnny Walker told me today that playoff hockey, they've been playing that all season long. But I think they all know how important this weekend is at Boston University. I asked Coach, I said, how important do you think it is to Joey to be able to sweep his hometown schools in one season? He said, well, I think that would be very special for him, but more importantly, he just wants wins, and they're not thinking any further along than Friday night at Boston U. So let's hope that you're showing up there is going to give them a little inspiration to play hard.
If they need me for inspiration, they have more problems than you and I can help them with. So let's just call it that. But BU is 5-1-1 in their last 7 games. Once again, the dynamic of playing a non-conference series in the middle of the conference season might come into play here. This is a very, very talented team. We talked about BC, where they had 11 NHL draft picks on their team. BU is not much different. They have 10 or 11 NHL draft picks on their team too. So even though the team is 9-9 for the season with 2 ties, It's a very, very dangerous team. They have a lot of talent. Their goalie, Jake Ottinger, is a top-of-the-line goalie, as it seems like even though ASU has a top-of-the-line goalie, they're playing nothing but top goalies on a regular basis. So ASU cannot afford that oversight of not doing what the coach is talking about, relaxing a little bit on that power play, because they're going to need all the power play goals they can get.
You know, I talked to Coach Powers about that today, a little bit about parity in college hockey, and he said, you know, he's been saying that for a couple of years now, that there aren't enough stalls in college hockey with just 60 teams for all the talent. So he said, in his estimation, there is no nights off. That was his exact words. There are no nights off for anybody in college hockey because anybody can beat anybody at any time. So he didn't really look at this as a more difficult series or a lesser series either way. It was just another series.
Well,
that's a good way to look at it.
I think you always have to look at it that way. And to his point and yours, one of the teams that you're familiar with, North Dakota, took its first trip ever to Buffalo a couple of weeks ago to play Canisius, and Canisius swept them. Those are the first two games that North Dakota has ever lost to an Atlantic hockey team. So it just goes to prove that point even more, that anybody can beat anybody on any given night. You saw crazy fluctuations this weekend in the pairwise. ASU went up and down as every game ended. They started out at 12, and the craziness actually had them moving up a spot in the pairwise, up to 11. And you have to sit there.
I told Coach that. I said, how is that when you can have a bye week and move up in the pairwise? He just shook his head at me.
Yeah, well, he's probably saying, well, if we just have more bye weeks, maybe we'll just keep moving up, even if we're not playing.
Well, I did remind him that he does have one more bye week coming up.
Isn't there one between AIC and Minnesota?
Yeah.
Or am I misreading that?
No, you're right. There's one more.
Okay. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't have the schedule in front of me.
No, there's one more bye week.
Okay. So what you did see, and this is the first time as a fan with a greater interest, is looking at the pairwise very intensely. And, you know, I know how a batting average works when you get 300 at-bats.
Right.
Okay? Every time you get a base hit, your average goes up 2 points.
Right.
And every time you make an out, your average goes down 1 point. I have no idea how this pairwise thing works once you fill it in. Somebody was explaining it to me about a week and a half ago. And I was just sitting there listening to him like, huh? What? Well, and then, and you know the gentleman very well, Mr. McNally, he was showing me that you could put this winner in and that winner in, and you could sit there and my head was exploding because, well, you got to play it this way. What happens if this, and what happens if that, and what happens if this? No, I was like, I'll just wait till the end of the day because I'm going to drive myself crazy.
I'm going to let you into a little secret. Mike runs every option, I think, every day. And I call him at the end of the weekend, and I go, all right, give me the pairwise. I don't even look because I know he's going to know. So I just give him a text. I go, okay, what's the pairwise? And then he'll give me something back, and he'll say, but if so-and-so happens, we'll be here. And I'll say, there you go again, burst in my bubble. Can we just leave it like that?
Well, you know, there was a Big Ten doubleheader on Sunday.
Yeah.
Michigan State was playing Minnesota. And so you have to sit there and say, okay, ASU beat Michigan State twice. So the more Michigan State wins now, the better ASU's pairwise numbers become. And also they play Minnesota, so they can take care of Minnesota themselves on the ice. Now, the other game is Notre Dame and Wisconsin. So what happens? So you're sitting there, okay, what if Wisconsin wins? And what if Notre Dame wins? And what if there's a tie? And what if my computer explodes? And what happens if?
Well, here's what I think we have to be concerned with the most. I think the conference tournaments need to have the guys that are ahead of ASU right now win their respective conferences. I think we need St. Cloud to win. I think we need UMass to win. I think we need Minnesota State to win. If those 5 teams that are ahead of ASU right now all win the conference tournament, then you don't have a very good chance of anybody sneaking up from behind. Because here's the nightmare though, Paul. If North Dakota and Denver, for example, would play for the NCHC conference tournament, and one of them's going to win and get the automatic bid, then what do you do with the other one? You put them in, even though their record's not very good, or do they stay out?
Well, the way I see it, first of all, if it comes down to Denver and North Dakota, then you're rooting for Denver, because I think Denver is going to be in no matter what. Yeah. What you don't want is North Dakota, who's normally not in this spot, to take that spot.
That automatic bid. Same thing in the Big Ten, right? I mean, we've got Penn State, we've got Ohio State, we've got Notre Dame, the top 3, obviously. We got Minnesota that's creeping up there. God forbid if Minnesota were to win that Big Ten tournament, they could end up with 4 teams in the tournament from that conference.
Well, right now, I don't know outside of Penn State and Ohio State who would get in that conference. Notre Dame is right on the bubble. How they do in the rest of the conference season would definitely be a factor. You can look at, in terms of the pairwise, Ohio State is definitely going to be in. Penn State is behind, if I'm not mistaken, right now, ASU in the pairwise. Yep. So this is going to be so kind of against my core to root for favorites.
You have to, though, buddy.
Oh, no. Listen. If it comes down to, do I go? My biggest core is ASU. Anything else after that takes second fiddle. But normally, as I watch these things, especially the last few years, as I've gotten more and more into it, I'll root for those underdogs to get in. Now, nope, we want chalk. That's what we want. We want chalk.
Well, and the thing right now is ASU controls their own destiny. The players know it. The coach knows it. We know it. All you have to do is, our quote that we both used back and forth with each other this week was, just win, baby. Just win. You win and you put all this crap aside. And when I talk with Johnny Walker today, you'll see the interview on our regular College Hockey Southwest Weekly tomorrow. But Johnny told me that same thing. I said, is it good or bad that you guys are going to finish your season 3 weeks before everybody else? And he said, I think it's good, especially if we have put ourselves in a top 12 pairwise position by that time, so that we don't have to scoreboard watch. We can just rejuvenate, recharge batteries, relax, and get ready to play one playoff hockey game. So that's how Johnny's looking at it. But that means you got to win 6 out of the next 8, buddies.
I would say 6 should get them in. You never know, something crazy could happen.
That's the magic number, Paul. So 6.
Well, the magic number is 1. That's Friday night at BU. That magic number is 1. You can't worry about 2 through 6.
Guys, we got to eliminate them. We got to make that number go smaller.
I understand that, but you got to get 1 before you can get 2 through 5, 2 through 6. So, but controlling your own destiny, finishing with 22 wins, as you saw with the pairwise, if the season was over now and every conference, they're at 11, so if every conference tournament ended in an upset, they would be the last team in.
Right. Yeah.
They would be the last team in. Atlantic Hockey's only going to get 1 team. Yeah. But the ECAC, obviously, Big Ten, Hockey East, WCHA, NCHC, those conference winners are, that's 5 spots right there. So you're already talking about 16 through, from 11 to 6. So obviously 10 is better than 11.
Right.
And if they want a guarantee of being in, they have to finish in that 10 spot, because then it doesn't matter what happens in the conference tournaments.
Yep.
But you can do that, obviously, by winning.
Well, Johnny also told me today that he reminded me that my Minnesota Bulldogs were the last team in last year and won the national tournament. So he
By, I think, what, 1/1000th of a point in the pairwise?
Yeah. He said it doesn't matter how we get in. We just got to get in, and then we'll take it one game at a time from there and see what happens.
So, but the way it's crazy. That's the obvious answer, but once again, you have to take care of business. Take care of business on Friday. What you can't do is get swept.
Yeah, and a couple of updates from today at practice. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's coming into the tournament healthy. A lot of competition for spots. I have no idea how he's going to fill that lineup card out. I'm glad I'm not the guy that has to do it, because he's got some competition for the number 6D spot and the number 12 offensive spots. Are both, there's guys pushing each other for it. The one thing I was real comfortable with today, I'll give a little shout out to Steen Pashnik. He was good in front of the net. If this team doesn't score some power play goals this weekend with him there, obviously they got to get the opportunities. That's first and foremost. But man, oh man, I saw some great tips by Steen today. And when he's standing in front of a goaltender, you see nothing but the back of that number 28 jersey. That's all you see.
I was listening to somebody else's podcast as...
Shame on you.
Well, if it makes you feel...
just research.
If it makes you feel any better, it was the Coyotes general manager.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that makes you... So we're still talking about the desert Southwest and hockey in the South.
Okay.
Part of the conversation was obviously this analytics and I get that and so forth and so on, but I'm still old school, especially on the power play. Yeah. Put that guy in front of the net and get pucks through. They don't necessarily have to be the greatest shot. They just have to get through and make the other team scramble to clear the rebounds. And the best way to get the puck in to the net is make sure the goalie can't stop it. And he either can't see it or can't stop it because it changes direction. And I understand the use of those types of rubrics and data and analytics and to figure out what your best to maybe break ties and stuff. But the bottom line is the puck still has to go in the net. And the best way to do that is to prevent the goalie from stopping it.
Yeah. Well, let me throw you the leading goal scorer in NCAA hockey's theory. All you need to do is have good goaltending, really good defense, and put the puck in the net, and you'll win hockey games.
Really? Let me write that down. Good goaltending, defense, scoring. Okay, we're good.
The leopard, he's something else. No, seriously, we had a good visit today, and I asked Johnny to start the interview. I'm going to give a little tease out here, but I said, leading goal scorer in NCAA hockey is Johnny Walker. Your thoughts? And he said, oh, it's nice. in the Johnny Walker way, it's nice. It's nice to do that. But it was. We had a fun interview, so it's going to be well worth watching and listening to tomorrow.
The fact of the matter is that he's part of the personalities that drive this team. They seem to be all on the same page. Are we happy that they lost a couple of games like that? I'm sure they're not. Yeah, they don't care whether I'm happy or not. I guarantee you they weren't. And just come out and play hard and let the chips fall where they may. And that's all you can really do.
Yeah, so, and I think that's what they will do. I think they'll come out and put a really strong effort together. I think they all know what's at stake, and they will come out flying. So magic number remains at 6. There's 8 games left. If you do the math, that means 6 wins in the last 8 games. I do like, Paul, the fact that they're going to have AIC as that last home series. I think they're going to be charged up. I think we can almost you can't pencil anything in, but I think you can say that they're a favorite to sweep those guys at home on senior weekend. So
you would think
that, which means that these next 2 road trips are going to be important. The second thing that I like is that this teams that they're going to be facing coming in are similar to them. They're skilled, they're fast, but they're not big and physical. And I made a point this week about talking to everybody from Jacob Stridesburg to Coach to Johnny Walker about, hey, what happened here? 2 years ago, you guys were the big, strong, physical guys. Now you're having problems with them. And they all knew, and they all, in a roundabout way, admitted that it was hard for them to play those big physical teams, and they had to get used to it again. Their style has changed.
Yeah, well, listen, the game has changed.
Yeah.
The game has changed. And this is not any sort of brilliant insight on my part. Big and physical still helps.
Yeah.
Had they gotten a couple of power play goals, that might have forced Clarkson to loosen up. That might have forced Cornell to loosen up especially in the Saturday night game, but they couldn't convert. So if you can't put the other team on the defensive, especially a team that is big and physical, they're going to come at you and they're going to make you pay until you make them pay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think our both of us have the same nightmare scenario as they get in the tournament and they match up with Clarkson in the opening game. That would be not a fun matchup. It would be fun to watch because we both have the insights with those guys in both teams. But goodness gracious, I don't want to see them play a team like that. The other thing that I threw out there was to everybody, including Jacob Stridesburg, was I said, how much are you looking forward to going to Minnesota and playing on Olympic ice, coming from Sweden, and that's your ice? And he said he was excited about it. I asked Johnny that today. Johnny said that he didn't really care where they played because both teams were playing on the same ice surface.
Yeah, and their games are different. The measurements from face-off dot to face-off dot to the front of the net are the same.
Yep.
It's outside those dots where the size difference comes in. So for Johnny, it's not really a different game. For some of the other players, especially for the defensemen, it is kind of a different game because you have bigger angles to cut off. So you could see where
the goaltenders, it's going to be a bigger game. Joey's going to have to be sharp, to say the least.
Well, there haven't been too many games this year where he hasn't been. So I think 2, maybe 3 games all year where he hasn't really been on his game out of 26 at this point. So I'll take those odds.
I'm going to throw one more tease out there. I asked Johnny today about Joey and getting him the puck and things like that, and he said Joey's the best goaltender at playing the puck in the world. And he said, hold on. He kind of checked himself, and he goes, yeah, you know what? Find me an NHL goaltender that plays the puck as well as Joey Decord does.
Well, I really haven't seen one since Marty Brodeur.
I haven't either.
Okay, and the reason they have a trapezoid in the NHL is because of Marty Brodeur.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, he is flat out the reason why they put that rule in where the goalie can't play the puck behind the net, and the college game gives Joey Decord an extreme advantage. In most of the games that I've watched this year that are not ASU games, most of those goalies are not anywhere close to handling the puck like Joey is. And Coach knows it, and he's told us many times, whatever you do, you do. You play your game. Yep. It's a tremendous advantage, and it's the one thing that no other goalie in college hockey seems to come close to. and when everybody's on their game. So it's a situation where ASU has to take advantage of every advantage that they do have, and that's one of them.
Let's round things up for today on two topics. The first one I wanted to do, I mentioned to Coach Powers about this today, is how important his assistant coaches have been to him. And Alex Hicks just got the nod for the ECHL Hall of Fame, and Coach Powers told me, he said, more than the honor itself and how proud they were of him, he said he thought it was great for his players to see the work ethic that Alex Hicks went through from Division III NCAA hockey to reach the NHL level and to be as dominant as he was at the ECHA level. He said it gives our guys a lift, and he said I remind them every day that this guy did it, so there's no reason why you guys can't do it.
Well, let's face it, you don't have a lot of Division III guys that make it to the NHL, and Alex Hicks didn't just make it to the NHL. He played 14 years.
Yeah.
He played 14 years. And that's not a cup of coffee.
No, absolutely.
That's the coffee, the dessert, the whole meal in front of it, and the cocktail hour before that. So 14 years in the NHL is big time. And Coach Power said it himself. I don't want anybody to be able to say to a recruit they don't have anybody on that staff that knows how to get to the NHL, because they clearly do.
Absolutely. And then the final thing I want to bring up about, we talked again, Coach Powers and I did, about the freshman class and how much they've contributed. And I think that trip to Minnesota is where you're going to see that freshman class explode, because I think PJ Morocco, Jordan Sandu, Josh Maniscalco, and Demetrius, I think those four are going to be huge in that open ice, because Morocco is as fast as anybody, Sandu's as fast as anybody, and so is Demetrius. So you give those guys a little extra room where they can't get pinned against the boards as easy. Well, look out.
Well, I would love to be able to ask those players where they thought the wall was, because clearly all the freshmen have hit a wall at some point. Even Jacob Gorley, Austin Lemieux. This is the first time they're doing this. So it would be very interesting to be able to compare notes to see where they've done that and what kind of adjustments they've tried to make. Because in a couple of years, they're going to be the ones that have to tell the freshmen that follow them, this is how you try to get out of this.
Yep, absolutely.
So it would be very interesting to see what kind of introspection that they've done, to see how if they've changed anything, have they doubled down on some other things to get them out of it? Because let's face it, those guys, and we've said it all year long, are the key to how far this team goes, because they need that secondary scoring. When they get it, they win. When those guys like Morocco and Maniscalco and Kumanzis figure in the scoring somehow, they usually tend to win those games. So these last 8 games, they've had a couple of weeks off now. So let's see what happens. They have a long road trip this week, even though Boston's an easy trip in terms of flight manifestation. RIT is a little tougher. Yeah. It's a little more out of the way.
Coach shrugs that off every time I talk to him about it. He said the same thing. He said, you know what, we're going tomorrow. Next week we're gonna go on Wednesday. We got a good skate in on Thursday. There's no reason for not being sharp on Friday. All the travel stuff is out of the way by Thursday night. You wake up Friday morning, it's just another game day, another weekend. So let's wrap things up by saying good luck in Boston U, not only for the Sun Devils, but for our long distance